to do it that way. So
yeah. Now, one side of that too is, and the only reason I guess this was brought to my attention, mental state or illness, in a sense. And there was one of my friends. They didn't have a succession plan in place, right? And the gentleman's wife, she got sick, and she ended up in the nursing home for a little while. Well, she ended up with some Alzheimer's and dementia. But she was like a 50-50 owner of the farm, right?
Yep.
So where does that lead now that she's needing to sign this stuff over, but she's not of the right state of mind to legally do it? Am I misspeaking on any of this?
No, there's several nuances in there that, just have to be dealt with on a case-by-case basis. But
that's health-wise, you got to think forward too.
You do. Yeah, you do need to think about that, because at some point you either develop dementia or you just get tired and you just, you don't want to deal with things anymore. I will say competency to sign a power of attorney or to sign a will or sign a trust or something, that kind of competency is different than the competency to drive a car or the competency to, you don't have to know who the president of the United States is to sign your will.
Okay.
But you do need to understand that what you're doing is you are passing on your assets to that next generation to sign a will. To sign a power of attorney, you need to understand that you are now appointing someone else to handle your affairs for you. So again, that's not that I know who the president is, but it is an understanding of this is my son and he's going to become my.
Gotcha.
So who draws that line? How do you determine that?
Yeah, so a lot of times that comes to me as the attorney
Gotcha.
to draw that line.
Gotcha.
Or it comes down to the family who says, Mom never should have signed that. Or someone who lost out because Mom signed a power of attorney that she shouldn't have.
And see, I think that's like in a situation like this, they're like, one sibling wouldn't have liked the outcome.
Right.
And saying, well, no, that's not how, there's no way.
Right.
But then, so it comes, yeah.
Yeah, so then that's when I, as the attorney, I have to be certain that the person who's signing the document in front of them knows what they're doing. And I notarize their signature, and that's part of what I'm doing in the notary as well, is confirming that they're competent, they're signing this of their own free will, that they know what they're signing. Generally, they may not know that my power of attorney is going to go withdraw $3,000 out of my bank account, but they know that
that allows them to do that.
Yeah, it's allowing them to do that, and they're going to pay my bills.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And then it's also on the power of attorney, the person who's appointed as the power of attorney, to act in Mom's best interest. That they're what's called a fiduciary, and a fiduciary acts in the other person's best interest, even if it's not in my best interest. I act in their best interest because I'm acting on their behalf,
not your own.
Right. And so that's when it also becomes important that the power of attorney, or the attorney in fact, knows that what they're doing is, has consequences, and what some of those consequences are, and knows that it's best for Mom, even if it's not best for siblings, and can support that decision. Yep. So, and that's unfortunately in my area of the law. Like I said, I don't go into the courtroom very often, but when I do, it's those questions of, there was not a formula that said, if you have X, Y, and Z, this is okay. It's all on kind of a sliding scale of, was Mom competent or was she not? Well, she was a little bit competent, but maybe not totally competent.
Then it's I'm sure it's even grayer when there's in and out moments.
Right.
The come and go moments of whatever it may be,
Yeah. And I know I have had those times where I've had an appointment set up with someone to sign a document, and I get there, or they get to my office, and as I have a conversation with them, I can tell that this is not a good day and probably not an appropriate time to sign things. And so we reschedule. And I've had those times where I've had to reschedule, and when we come back together,
sharp as a tack.
Everything's good. We're fine. So, but that's incumbent upon me as as the attorney who draws that document, who
That's within the
notarizes that
oath. That's
signature.
within the oath that you've taken to be an
Right.
attorney, essentially, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. So what is your I guess favorite part about being in the position you get to do, or what? I mean, yeah.
I love working with the families, and I love watching them come up with those sometimes unique solutions for how they can pass on their legacy to their kids. It's when it goes well, it's really fun to see those plans come together, and really mom and dad, walking out of the office saying, "We did it. We've got a good plan in place. Everybody's going to be happy. It's a good thing." And then, especially when mom and dad do pass away and the kids come in and they go, "Well, this was easy." That's my favorite part.
It worked. It worked.
Yep.
Yeah, it worked. It was good. That was the way it was supposed to be.
When you have like a grower, farmers, they come in, their wealth that they've stored up over generations may not be in the form of cash or something like that, right?
Right.
So, and this was also, something we had talked about in the past. An exit strategy isn't always easy with that.
Absolutely.
Right? Because they may not want to actually get rid of the dirt.
Right.
I mean, you got a lot of value tied up in that, but that's only value if you can borrow against it or liquidate it, right?
Yeah.
So a transition plan into retirement, which would be a financial planning side of things, right?
Right.
But also that becomes very tough to do.
It does. I don't think farmers retire.
I don't think any of them probably have any goal of retiring.
Yeah, they
break.
They break. Yeah, and that's my grandpa. He never had any intentions of retiring, but he had an accident, and
Yep.
he couldn't do anything after that.
Mm-hmm.
The community came around him and helped him, and that was wonderful. But his days on the tractor were done.
Yeah, they break.
And that just is the reality of the industry. But yeah, a succession plan is hard to do. That really goes back to that child who, you've got 3 kids and one of them's involved in the operation. And so we work with that child as well. And there's a lot involved with that, financial planning. And, the other thing is a lot of farmers have a lot of debt that is a rolling debt, and they're all comfortable with that. But that debt is specific to the particular owner, and when that passes to the next generation,
They may not be comfortable with it.
They may not be comfortable with it. The lending institutions may not be comfortable with the new owner, and so there's a lot involved with that. So we do see a lot of contract type sales to children. And again, you have to be careful with those because tax consequences and things like that. Because if mom and dad sell the farm and they've owned the farm for 50 years, they've got some capital gains consequences there. So, it takes working with the financial planners and the CPAs to make sure that you've got a good setup. I've worked with a number of families who they want to go ahead and pass on that land to the next generation, and so they just give it to them, and then they come see me, or then we come get the CPA involved, and we're like, okay, now we've got to undo, or what can we do to undo? And those are tough. Those are really tough. But yeah, looking at what those alternative uses of the land would be, and and Travis, you and I were kind of talking before we started recording here too, that a lot of those next generation folks are coming in and not doing a traditional farming operation.
Yes.
They're doing some other ag related, industry, but yet the land is still important to them, and they still have to have the land as a part of their ag operation, but it's not the traditional farming that you're expecting. But those other, tangent industries have really become popular. Like I said, I do a lot of business planning as well, and the farm families have come to me over the last probably 6 or 7 years, and I've been amazed at the types of new businesses. Yeah. Everything from technology to fertilizer to, dairy operations and transportation, and it's all ag related and ag based, but it's not what I think of as traditional farming.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
As we were talking earlier, you said, and this is the same thing, I guess, going back to, I remember growing up and, on family farm and all that stuff, and that's all it was.
Yeah.
Family farm.
Exactly.
And
you had grain operation, you had livestock operation, and
they ran a trucking company as well, but there was nothing intermingled between the two.
Yeah.
Sometimes now, they have a trucking company. It's a different company for a liability reason sometimes, but they have their hopper bottoms and they all that. But back then they didn't have hopper bottoms. They ran just van trailers, and that was a trucking company, period.
Yeah.
And then all they had was the farm otherwise, But getting that now, I guess you can talk a little bit about liability and the reasons these are different now and how they are in comparison to maybe what we would have been used to in the past. And I think you understand my question a little bit.
Yeah, so we see a lot of farm operations that have multiple corporations or LLCs and things like that. And a lot of that has to do with one of two things. One is tax consequences, because an LLC is going to be taxed a little bit different than an S corporation, is going to be taxed a little bit different than a partnership. It's going to be taxed a little bit different than a C corp. And we see C corps in the ag industry around here a fair amount. I don't do C corps for any other industry typically, other than farms. But with farms, a C corp is sometimes the best situation to put them in. So, and that's primarily a tax situation. Yep. But the other reason to separate out the entities is for liability. And when people come to see me, they want to set up a corporation because they want to limit that liability. And a corporation or an LLC is going to limit liability. So if somebody gets hurt on the farm, you want them to be compensated, obviously. You don't want somebody to get hurt and then just have to take care of themselves.
You want just compensation.
Just compensation. But sometimes those, huge illnesses or huge injuries can be very, very costly. And if we've got that farm in an LLC, then the limit of the liability is going to be at the LLC level. And it's not going to come back to the farmer's personal home and personal bank account and personal vehicle.
They're in a trucking accident. Yeah. It may not lose the ground because of the trucking accident. Right. Or someone hits a combine going down the road.
Yep, exactly.
There's different levels because of that type of thing.
Right. And we get into with the farms too, if you've got, a whole lot of acres, you may want to have multiple LLCs, because if you put all of your assets into one LLC, there's not much limitation on that liability. So again, that's a very personal, solution for each family, and it's different for each family.
And we see that, where it'd be a husband and wife have this LLC, and then maybe the husband just do the renting, this over here, and you got different entities from grower names per se within the same overall structure.
And those LLCs can also help in that transition planning as well, the succession planning, so that they can bring the kids into the operation. The kids can be a part of the decision making. Mom and dad can still have a lot of the income. We can set those up.
But it's structured and limited into certain pieces and smaller scale first.
Right. So sometimes those LLCs are a real important part of that succession plan, that transition plan to the next generation too. So
how much our industry is ever changing? Technology, my gosh,
all the time.
I don't think we can keep up half the time.
Technology changes, doubles every 3 days or something.
Yes,
right.
I mean, how does our industry and ag industry, how do the changes in that, how does that affect what you do? Has it really? I mean, what I'm saying, like, has an estate plan generally been an estate plan? If you put it in place, I mean, I understand our life changes make differences, right? But are there different things now that you have to, and as changes happen with technology and with how these operations are as big as they get, does that change anything that you have to structure? Or
I would say that the biggest things that affect the structures that we create are taxes. And the way the tax laws change. Over the last 20 or 30 years, the tax laws have changed dramatically in the way trusts are taxed, the way estates are taxed. When I first started doing estate planning, you could pass on $500,000 to the next generation without any estate tax. Well, especially in today's dollars, that's been a few years ago, but especially in today's dollars, $500,000 does not go very far when you've got a farm.
No.
You get to 500,000 very quickly. And at that time, anything over that $500,000 was going to be taxed at 30 or 40%. Well, today that number's 12.9 million per person.
Gotcha.
And so what that means is I can pass on at my death or through my whole lifetime, I can pass on $12.9 million of value to anybody without any federal estate tax on it. And
cumulatively 12.9?
Yeah,
or
cumulatively.
Okay,
Yeah,
you
it's
can't do
over a
12.9 to one person, another 12.9 to another.
No, it's cumulatively, and it's over a lifetime. So I could gift away $500,000 today.
And then your husband could do a similar.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And so, so that 12.9 is per person, and spouses get double that.
Okay.
You have to handle that correctly
Gotcha.
at the first death. But so essentially for a couple, you've got $26 million
Gotcha.
that you can pass on. That may change in a couple years. That's one of those laws that's going to sunset, I think, in 25. But but that has changed dramatically the way we plan for afterlife, for that estate plan.
So if it's set up prior to that, if you have something set up prior to that, it doesn't matter.
Well, sometimes it does.
Okay.
And so I have seen a number of people who really did their primary estate planning 30 years ago, and they planned under the laws as they existed then.
Mm-hmm.
Today, that plan costs them more in taxes or more in administrative costs more than anything, because so 30 years ago, we would have said, okay, husband and wife, you need to own this farm separately. Mm-hmm. You need to each own your half. Today, we really like to see them own it together so that at the first to die, we don't have to go through an administrative process.
Gotcha.
But 30 years ago, we said, own it separately. Well, if they've never changed that and they've never updated that separate ownership.
So you can update your estate and stuff like that as well. You can update all that stuff as well. I mean, it's just.
Absolutely. But it really does take talking to somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's usually not
your neighbor. Not the neighbor.
There's way more that goes into it than your neighbor knows, I'm sure.
Yeah, the neighbor is not usually up on the continuing education to
unless you
to
live
know
next to Lora.
I was going to say, unless we live next to you.
Well, we really have no neighbors, so we kind of like it that way. But yeah, so yeah, keeping up with those changes and things are real important and can really have a huge effect on your family.
So from when you started to like now, have you seen a change of like younger people coming in and starting an estate plan compared to like when you started?
No, not really.
That's a disappointing.
Not really.
That's a disappointing shake.
I mean, I do work with some folks who are younger. Mm-hmm. They're usually the ones who have seen the process. So their parents or grandparents have passed away, and they say, we need to get our ducks in a row.
Yep.
That's normally how they come to see me before age 50.
Gotcha.
My primary clientele are 65 and up because they are beginning to see that, life has a sunset and we all are going to die, and it's better for us to die with a plan than to leave our family hanging out there. And so that's usually the folks that I see. I do see some in their 20s, and sometimes when folks have babies, young children, they come in and say, well, we need to make sure that we've got a guardian in place for our kids. And that's a very important piece of it as well. You can state in your will who you want to be a guardian of your minor children. So anytime your kids are under 18, if both parents pass away, those kids are going to become wards of the state if there's not a guardian appointed for them. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, now, a court's going to step in and probably appoint a family member as a guardian. But the reality of it is, a lot of times folks don't want that family member to be the guardian of their kids. And so you can state that, you want someone else to be the guardian, and what you state in your will is given great deference by the guardianship courts. And so that's a good way to make sure that your minor children are taken care of.
Yeah.
So I do see a fair number of young families that come in specifically for that guardianship, but we put a will in place at the same time, put the guardianship in the will. And we do, our policy in my office is we do as much as we can to go ahead and put a minimal estate plan in place for everybody who comes in. And that's a will, a power of attorney, and a healthcare representative appointment. The power of attorney, we typically say that we're going to put this in place. It's not going to be effective until you cannot handle your own affairs, but we're going to have it there in case we need it. Mm-hmm. And then a healthcare representative is for those situations where if you get into a car accident and you can't make your own healthcare decisions, there's someone there that the doctors can look to and get that definitive healthcare decision made, for you. And that healthcare representative and the power of attorney, I usually say those are really important, but by the time we need them, it's too late to put them in place. So let's put them in place now. We've got them. You can always change them. You can always update. You can always change who those people are, but let's put them in place so that at least there's something there now.
So setting these up, is this complicated to go and set up?
Not at all. The most complicated part of it is deciding who those people are that you trust enough to put in those positions.
Yep.
And then understanding, like I said, that you can always change it. So, if I put my brother's in Atlanta, so he's not going to hear this, I don't think.
Oh, we're worldwide.
Well, I know you're worldwide, but unless I reach out to him and say, hey, go listen to this. But if I put my brother in place today and next week we have a falling out, I can change those documents and remove him as my executor, as my healthcare representative or whatever. Understanding that that's always an option, and then doing that, when there is a falling out, make sure I change those documents.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a great idea to just put those in place, plan for what's today, get them in place, get that basic plan in place, and then just build from there.
I think one thing that was an eye-opening thing for me is, and this is all through, most of the time you have eye-opening experiences that brings these situations to life, because like I said, we don't have neighbors like Lora that we sit down and drink wine.
Right.
We sit down and drink wine with and talk about succession planning, right? But I guess what the power of attorney, like what they can do, like when they have a POA, like I have a situation where they can actually allow or not allow other family members to come and check someone out of a facility. Say you wanted to take your mom out and go for a drive. If they didn't check off on that and say you're allowed to check her out, you're not allowed to take them out of the facility.
You can't do it.
It's crazy. I mean, it really is, in a sense. So there's a lot of thought that needs to be put into that.
Yeah.
And a lot of non-emotion that needs to be put into situations like that, I think.
Right.
Where someone can remove themselves from a situation that there may be a feud between siblings, brother, sister, whoever it is, right? But yet say, no, it's still a parent and a child. And even though I may not like that other child, there's still a situation there that needs to, so I think that was like, are you kidding? Really? They're not even allowed to go see him if they want? I mean,
yeah,
it's amazing how much that POA actually holds and what it can do.
And even worse, I have seen the situation where dad gave his son the POA, and then dad fell and broke his hip, went into the nursing home for a rehab. Meanwhile, son went and changed the title to dad's home into son's name. And son's now living in the home. Dad's done with rehab, ready to come home. And son says, nope, this is my house now. You're not.
Jeez.
Now, there are consequences for that, because that would not be a situation where the son was acting in dad's best interest. Mm-hmm. But sometimes
it legally can go through if
right.
it's not pursued on the backside.
That's crazy.
Right. And sometimes in that situation, I don't really know what the final outcome was, but in those situations, sometimes it's easier not to fight with it. And some people choose not to fight it and say, well, okay, I'm 85, I'm just going to stay in the nursing home and not fight my son on this. But because you set up your child as a POA, they had the ability to do that. And so that's something that I always caution folks about. And some of those things are not things that you can anticipate either. And it's very unfortunate that some things like that happen. Mm-hmm. But, guarding against as many of those things as possible.
And at least being aware and understanding what a POA means.
Exactly.
you know.
Exactly.
So, but
Yep. Exactly. So
so what we used to be your neighbors.
yes, you did.
We were great neighbors, I'm
You
sure.
were great neighbors.
I'm going
You
to
were-
say that, but
Travis is talking about office neighbors.
Yeah.
Yes,
last
You,
year.
yes.
you brought the UPS guy in
Oh, man.
frequently. So if we had stuff to go out with UPS, we knew he'd
absolutely,
be
John
there,
is
so.
the best. So, yes, but no, the changes over there. You guys actually expanded a little bit.
Yeah, we did.
And
we
remodeled, and you've grown as well. And
We
you don't
have.
get to look at our beautiful trailers blocking your view
No,
every day.
We don't. We don't. That was great, logo placement for you guys, brand placement
we were
for you guys. So.
Very limited on parking spots, and
Yeah.
thankfully, we didn't run the apply business at that time over there.
Right,
'cause it would have
right.
been
Oh,
even
geez, that
less.
would've
You would
full
not have
parking
had
lot.
room.
Yeah.
Yeah, our office. We, as I said, we've been very blessed in our practice. Over the last year and a half, I've added another attorney in my office. I've added a legal assistant in my office, and in the process of adding another legal assistant in the office. And so, yeah, we basically doubled our space in January of this year. Took over the next door spot. We did not take over the spot that Experience Ag had, just because the one on the other side of us was an empty box.
Yeah.
And we were able to configure
Simpler.
it the way we wanted to. And so didn't have any demolition costs, and we're able to, put things in there the way we wanted to. But it's been really, really nice. We almost doubled the size of our conference room. Not quite as big as your conference room here. This is really nice, but
I loved being next door to you. She got annoyed, I'm sure. I'd walk around. Just out the front door, next door over. Laura,
Yeah.
I got a question.
Yeah,
Oh.
no, it was great. It was great. So, yeah, you guys were good neighbors. So that's actually a really good strip of offices. We've got Janelle Batta on the other side, and she has her therapy dogs, Bo, and then her daughter's dog, Ryder, who will
Yeah.
come by now and then. So I love when she takes Bo out to
Yep, down
potty
the-
in the
yep.
grass or whatever, and I'll sometimes open my office door and just let him come in. He is the best dog. He's a collie.
That's that collie, yes,
Yep, he is
yes.
such a good
Oh,
dog.
and she's got him
gorgeous
groomed.
dog.
She got him
Yes.
groomed. He's never
Yep.
out of place at all on
Yep.
that.
And then Ryder is this little bitty,
I don't think I've
purse
seen.
dog.
I don't think I've seen him.
He belongs to Janelle's daughter, but he is the cutest dog. He just prances like he owns the place. And, but that's always fun. We've got a good location there, and a lot of people have asked me, why aren't you near the courthouse? That's where all the other attorneys are, and I've never wanted to be that attorney that someone's upset and they walk out of the courthouse and
Well,
they
there's
say,
personal
I need
business, but there's personal business there too, and you don't need to know. Everyone else doesn't need to know you're even going there.
Right. And we have a
yeah.
lot of folks like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's-
and I think Janelle Batta has the same thing,
Yeah.
and Clarity's on the
Yeah.
other end. I think a lot of that has just some
There's a
some
semi
privacy out there.
there's a
that-
semi-privacy thing going on
Yeah.
right there. That's like you're just another car in a parking lot
Right.
per se, and
Right.
it's not. There's not attention drawn to you.
Right.
Not on a made strip. You're going down that road for a purpose only.
Exactly.
Not just passing by and being like, oh, look who's over there.
Yep.
Wonder what they're doing.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's
And it's a good
small
location
town
next to the
prying
Y
eyes.
and
Yeah.
everything too. So, yeah, I think the biggest thing, I don't know if you guys ever saw this, but the biggest problem that we have is people don't know which building we're in because they go to the one across the
Yes.
little waterway. and-
Yes, on the other, yeah, not on Kathy's way there. They're on the opposite
Yep,
side over
yep,
there.
they're on the
Yeah.
opposite side.
Yep.
So,
So,
but yeah.
absolutely. So, anything else new going on for you?
I think we've kind of covered it all.
Well, we do
I
appreciate
was gonna say,
everything
yeah,
coming in.
Thank you for coming, Laura. That
Yeah.
was
My gosh, and I'd love to continue this, with Experience Ag and, with you. I would love to offer some grower highlighted events that maybe we just try to do a 10, 12 person thing every once in a while and
Yeah.
say, hey, we're going to have, Laura come in and just make sure you guys are educated because
Yeah.
it's very costly if you're not.
Yeah, it is.
It's very costly if you're not.
And like I said, when you hear what your neighbor did and you want to do what he has done, that's not always the right
He
right
probably
thing.
didn't
But-
always understand what he did either.
But that's just it. You don't understand what he did, and even if he told you what he did, he may not know for sure what he did. So
Right.
so yeah, sitting down and talking to somebody individually or in a small group is a good thing. And small groups are really good too because they're less intimidating.
Yes.
And if I have a question, maybe I can ask the guy sitting next to me and we both have that question.
Right.
So we can ask it in front of everybody.
It's not
but-
embarrassing. That's, if you're in a
Yeah.
smaller group, it's not embarrassing. If you're in a big
Right.
group, hell, everybody know I don't understand this.
Yep,
I mean,
exactly.
absolutely.
So yeah, but we love working with you guys. You guys have always been very gracious and
it's been fun.
you know.
You've helped us tremendously with business structure and business setup and advice, and oh my gosh,
Well, thank you.
So
It's been
all kinds.
It's been so fun watching you guys grow too, and
yeah, it's-
seeing what you guys have that's on the next
and you
horizon.
saw us,
And
you saw it go. I mean, I'm trying to remember back when we first started working together and stuff, and I don't know if it was just me.
I think it was
think
you
it
and
was
Steven,
me and Dusty, maybe. I
and
don't
you and
know.
Dusty.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were just a couple of you the first little while that you were in there.
Yeah.
But then there toward the end, you guys were building drones on the sidewalk and
Yeah,
all
man.
that stuff.
Oh,
So-
yeah. Yes.
So yeah,
So-
it's been really fun watching
We
you
rep-
guys grow, and I hope you've got a lot more to grow.
We
too,
repair
and
those
so-
in the back now quite often.
Do
So.
you?
It's not sidewalk work anymore.
Yeah, I'm still hoping that my son will get to work with you on the drones one of these days. He
man.
loves playing with the drones. Of course, he's played with the drones that are the 8 or 10 inch drones, not
Right.
the 5-foot drones.
Not
that
the
you guys
9-footers
do.
and 10-footers, right? Yeah. Actually, we got an event next week. We're going over to Columbus, and they're wanting us to come over and do something with the drones and kind of speak. And so
Yeah.
we've been very fun. I mean, you've been a lot of part of a lot of the community events that we've all been together at
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and it's always entertaining. And
Yeah.
we,
I heard great things about you guys were at Ag Day.
Oh, the
elementary
fifth grade?
School Ag Day.
They
and
love that.
loved that. I heard great things about that.
The drone, it steals the show, but that was a laugh because the sheriff's office and stuff, they're next to us. They do firearm
Yeah.
safety and stuff, and
Yeah.
they were pulled up there, and I said, guys, you're going to want to move your pickup trucks. And of course, I know them pretty well, and Pat was like, why? Well, we're spreading Fruity Pebbles today. So in the hopper bins, instead of spraying, we put some Fruity Pebbles in there, and the kids absolutely loved
Oh,
that.
I
It was
bet.
the whole fairground smelled like Fruity Pebbles, though. It was. I think we went through
That
probably
is sweet.
50.
Yeah.
I think we went through at least. I know we went through at least 50 pounds of Fruity Pebbles that day. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
So that's been our new trick lately. But yeah, they love it. I mean, so that's good.
That's bringing technology
Well, and
to
it's
the real
kind
person.
of
So
and it's bringing still awareness. I mean, it's when I grew up, farming. If you were gonna be a farmer, because that's what ag was.
yep.
And I guess that's kind of what we hope to achieve. Is there's so much more in ag,
Yeah.
than just farming, and you still get the same or similar joys of dealing, with the people and the freedoms and everything that comes with it, even if you're not or don't have the fortunate ability to work the ground or
Yeah.
anything like that. So
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
it's been fun. So.
Well, good. I hope you guys continue to grow and, double your space. I hope you outgrow this space quickly and, have to add on too. So,
Well, same goes for you guys. If you need another space, we got a little ground over here. You guys can put up. We'll help you put up a barn. So, well, Laura, we do appreciate you coming on
thank
today.
you guys. It's been
Yes.
great talking to you and would love to continue the conversation anytime.
Definitely.
Well, I'll tell you what, we may end up
Yeah.
having you back on again. So,
Sounds good.
do it.
Just let me know.
thank you.
So
Thanks.
thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for some more episodes.